Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to this video on Wisp for our Eidolon Guide 2021. I'll be honest, this is the one I have been dreading, and the footage for you today is not exactly what I'd call pristine. I'm not the best Wisp player in the world, and I haven't had too much practice on her. I have been trying to get practice in on her, but yeah. Not the best at the moment, but hopefully from the footage I show, I can probably talk you through the main concepts and ideas behind Wisp, and why she is a favourable frame to, say, Trinity, that you might also run in a 6x3. What I would say is that if you are not confident playing Wisp, then Trinity is also another viable option. She still works just the same as before, but obviously with Wisp you can give your squad mates much better buffs than the Trinity can, and she's just a much better all-rounded frame, really. The only benefit, really, that the Trinity would give you is more lure protection, but to be honest, once you're running Unairu Wisp on your DPS, or Unairu in general, sorry, you can protect your lures just fine, and as long as you're aware of particularly the Gantalist lasers, when they spring up and you move out of the way, then it should not be a problem at all. So we're just going to run through the build that I like to use here. Again, everything that you see in this video is going to be my personal preference. You can choose to build Wisp however you seem fit, or however you like to play her in the planes, but I'm just going to run through my build and how I like to play her. So if we take a look here, we've got corrosive protection. Again, aura, as usual, doesn't really matter too much. This build is in the process of being updated. I should point out I'm going to throw one more former on here. I may even choose to umbral former Wisp. I haven't decided yet, but this build will be in the process of updating. The key here is to really cap out our strength. The higher the strength, the greater the buff we can provide to our DPS, and through that we are going to be using our first ability, our reservoirs, our moats. So the main ones we're going to be using are the vitality and also the speed moat, the haste moat. So obviously that's going to be for tankiness and also to help our DPS fire their weapon a bit faster and also move a lot faster. So this is going to be really useful, and we're going to be trying to put these down everywhere that we can, pretty much, just to assist our teammates as best as possible. Everything else on here is pretty much useless to us, so you can swap any of these out for another ability if you so choose. You could put Rhino Roar on there, you could put Dispensary. It is completely up to you. But we're going to just run through the rest of the mods now. So I've got in here Power Drift. What I would suggest doing in this slot is you could probably swap this out. Again, 10% ability strength, it's not going to provide you with a whole lot here. I'm going to former this up once more, and I'm going to use this slot for preparation, just so that I spawn with max energy. As you can see, our efficiency is quite low, so it's going to be beneficial to have that on there. And we could also swap out another item here, perhaps Augur Secrets, which would keep us around the 300% mark for strength, which is still plenty. So I could probably put in Primed Flow there if I wanted to, just so that I start with max energy. But everything else is geared towards, you know, strength. I put a bit of duration on here just in case I do decide to change out one of these abilities for another ability from another frame. But this also helps with the moats when you actually leave them, so it will last longer. As you can see, buff duration there, 38.25 seconds. So when you leave the moat, that will obviously then carry over for 38.25 seconds, which is obviously very useful. Everything else here is kind of geared towards tankiness and utility. So we've got adaptation here as our primary kind of tankiness mod with vitality. Again, if you want to umbral form of this, you can throw an umbral vitality rather than normal vitality. And then I've got natural talent to improve the cast speed of our moat, as it is pretty slow, so I would highly recommend putting on natural talent. And then for our arcanes, we've got nullifier on. I've only got this on really if we're in a 3-man squad, just because then we don't have Harrow, and we obviously have to protect ourselves against the Eidolon's energy spikes. So do make sure that you have that on. I'd highly recommend it. And then energize, just to keep up our energy reserves. Nothing else really needed on here, so yeah, that should be fine. Again though, personal preference, please do build this however you see fit, or however sort of suits your playstyle. And then everything else is going to be geared towards us collecting lures. So I've got my Vectus on here, which is my sort of preferred choice. Again, this isn't necessary to have a Vectis. You can use whatever primary weapon you want, as long as it can one-shot lures. It is completely up to you what you use here. So that's the main thing we're going to be using here. We're running Madurai since we're going to be void striking. One thing that you can do is you can equip a melee. If you want to equip a Zor, and you can use Contagion then, one of the major parts of playing Wisp is gathering Vonvalists and charging lures. So it's going to be really important to be able to do that efficiently. And what you can do, but I am choosing not to, just because obviously it's not necessary really. But you can do it if you so choose and you feel confident doing it. Is you can run a Zor here with Exodia Contagion on. You can use this to take out Vonvalists, or at least put them into their sort of spectral form, where the lures can pick them up without using Void Strike stacks. So I would highly recommend, if you can, then you can put that on there. And obviously that will perhaps improve your efficiency at collecting Vonvalists. But I'm not going to be using it in this run, just because, first of all, I haven't completely got the hang of it yet. And secondly, it's not 100% necessary, and I wanted to show you guys that. So yeah, like I said, Madurai for Void Strike. And lastly, on our Parazon here, we need to be running Runtime. Please make sure that you have this on, as it's going to improve your speed when you're getting your lures. Other than that, the other two mods are obviously up to you what you put on here. So I've got Auto Breach on just because I sometimes fancy not using up ciphers, and I've also got Untraceable on. Again, personal preference. You can put on whatever you want. But yeah. That's pretty much the build for Wisp, guys. In terms of our Sentinels, same as before, really, for the other VS guides. We're going to be just making sure that we do not have Vacuum or Fetch on whatever pet we have. And then everything else is kind of standard here. Nothing too fancy. Our Arcwing, we're using Itzal for speed. We're not really going to be using anything. We might use Cold Snap every now and then to gather up Vonvalists. But other than that, it's pretty much as is, so do bear that in mind. But what I think we'll do now, guys, is we will hop into the plains. I'll show you one run. Again, don't judge. I'd also like to point out, and I know the guys in the server are going to kill me, or they won't kill me. They might say this is a bit cheese, but the guys I was playing with are very experienced players. And you will notice that I do not get a whole lot of the shields in this hunt. My timing is slightly off. But I do get some, so hopefully that will show on the video. But yeah, we'll hop in, we'll go through one run, and we'll just talk you through it as we go. So I'll see you guys in there. Alright guys, so we're just waiting to come into the plains here. Once again, pre-warning, not very good. But as we come out, we're going to put down our haste mote here, so that our frames can get a bit of a speed boost. And we're going to dash over towards where our Vonvalists spawn. And mark those for our DPS, following which we're going to go and collect an early lure. The only reason I'm doing this is because, as you can see, our DPS has already got a lure charged. He managed to do a fast charge very quickly, so we're going to go and grab that for him early on, and we're going to get that parked as soon as possible. But as you saw there, when we got to Terrorless, we put down our haste mote again, and now we're just going to shoot through the shield. The shields are placed a bit strangely here. I did realise this after recording, that they were placed a bit strangely there. But in between the shields here, we are going to go and grab some lures. You don't have to do this. As you can see, we only actually need 3 lures at the start here, which we already had. But I'm just going to make use of the time here and grab as many as I can in between, so that I can spend more time charging the lures and less time sort of, you know, worrying about gathering them. So this is not necessary, and I should stress that. It's really not necessary to gather lures in between the energy spikes once you've got 3. But obviously, I just want to make the most use of the time. So now that we've taken 3 limbs down, we're going to go and gather the rest of our lures. Our teammates are going to take the 4th limb. What I should stress here is that in a 3-man squad, you would want to be back for that last limb. It's really important to assist your teammates with all the limbs on Terrorlist when you're in a 3-man squad. So do be aware of that. But what we're going to do now that we've got all the rest of our lures, we're going to go and we're going to force spawn some Vonvalists. There's a few places that you can do this. One is the hill over here, and one is in front of the gate, as you saw before, where we just got the last few Vonvalists. And there's a few open plains areas, but we're just going to fly backwards and forwards here as we're going to be running out of time. We want to be back at Terrorlist as he's standing up, or when he's standing up, just so we can collect the Vonvalists that spawn underneath him, because you can see that our teammates have already got all 3 of the other lures charged, so we do not want to waste any of the Vonvalists underneath. And I do actually get there a bit late on this, but as you can see, we did manage to get another set of Vonvalists here, but the Terrorlist is now standing up, so we're going to grab these quickly. You'll also note as well that I am collecting these with my vectors. Now, since we're in a 4-man squad, that's not going to impede me too much here. By the time I get back to Shrine, and by the time we sort of go and try and take out the first shield of the Gantalist, my Void Strike stacks are going to be on around the 4 or 5 times mark, hopefully. If we're good on this run, I'm not so great, and my Void Strike stacks will be a bit low. But since there's 4 of us, it's not going to make a huge difference. But again, that's something that you want to keep in mind when you're in a 3-man squad. So, usual VS stuff. We've put our moat down on the Shrine as well, our haste moat. And we've put all our shards in. We're now going to come over to Gantalist and start firing our Proper. I landed a bit early there, unfortunately. So, probably didn't get the most effective damage off there. But what we're going to do, we're going to come behind Gantalist since it's fast spawn. A lot easier for our DPS to shoot limbs from behind, at least the top ones, that is. So we're going to put the moats behind the Gantalist here, and then we're going to come underneath, grab our Wisp, get Virtuous Shadow procced, and we're going to fire off our Proper. And now this is essentially pretty much the same as the VS rolls that you will have seen in the other guide videos. Just collecting our Wisp, we're going to hit the head for our Virtuous Shadow, and then we're going to just shoot through the shield. It's really important to note lure management here, making sure that the lures do not cross in front of your shields. If they do, they will explode the Proper shots. So when you collect your Virtuous Shadow from dashing and your Wisp, make sure that you come back and then move forward again so that the lures end up behind you and do not end up blocking the shield. You can see that some of them on the left there almost did. So really do make sure that they do not early explode your Proper shots. That's really important. You'll see in a second here that we do actually get some lasers. So around about here, I think it is. And you'll see at this point, my main concern is going to be the safety of the lures. So I actually do stop myself from getting a Wisp here, just so that the lures do not go somewhere that they shouldn't or walk into a laser. Our DPS is helping by using Unairu to shroud the lures. As you'll see, they go invisible and they'll take 80% reduced damage, which is very helpful, but I'm just going to make sure that they don't take a whole lot of damage from the lasers. Fast spawn's a bit tricky because the lures really just go wherever the hell they want, so do be aware of that. It's also important to make sure that the lures do not disconnect in any way when you're at fast spawn in particular. They do have a tendency to fly up the hill or fly up a mountain or something and disconnect, so just be aware of that. Make sure that you're staying on the same side of this little river bit here at all times, otherwise they will go completely berserk and fly off. But we put down our moats again for our DPS, and once he's shot that out, we're going to fly over to the shrine. In this instance, the DPS is the one with the loot. It's also worth noting as well there, obviously we got our lures charged very early, but if you didn't have your lures charged at that point, or you didn't have all of them charged, when the Gantalist is down, you could go and look for some more, as we did with the Terrorist. That's not a problem. Alternatively, if you had quite a few charged already, you could just use the Vonvalists that drop underneath the Gantalist when he goes down and stands up. And you saw there we dropped a lure for our DPS, just so that we make sure that we're really getting one tethered to the Hydralist when we go off. He's also going to be responsible for teleporting the loot to the gate, so that's another important aspect there. But as you can see, since we had long spawn last time, our moat is actually already in place behind the Hydralist, so we don't have to replace one since the duration is infinite on how long they can be placed for. So yeah, we're just gonna keep going around now doing our Void Strike stuff. We're going to hold our lures this time, since there's no threat of any lasers coming down and insta-killing the lures, so we're going to hold the lures to make sure that they are out of the way of our Proper shots, and we don't have to worry about them. We will come to collect those again at the end, and you'll see why. Not strictly necessary, but once again, we're just trying to be thorough here. You'll notice well that I'm not hitting a whole lot of these shields. They are going down instantly every time though, which means obviously our teammates are doing a really good job here. As long as you are shooting and helping your teammates, obviously if one of them doesn't crit or doesn't hit a high enough number, then your shot's going to be there to help out. And I think around here you'll see I hit something like 8,000 or 9,000 damage just to finish off the shield, because my teammates didn't crit, as you saw there. So it's always, you should always be shooting, even if you feel like you're doing nothing. It's always useful to shoot. Sometimes you have good days, sometimes you have bad days with Void Strike, so do be aware of that. And make sure that you're helping out. But yeah, basically this is just the Void Strike stuff from here. So again, what points that I want to reiterate is the difference between the 3-man and the 4-man squad. With a 4-man squad, you have a lot more scope to kind of go and hunt Vonvalists on the Terror list. On the Ganter list, you want to be there for every single shield. Do not think that you can sort of wander off during Ganter list and gather Vonvalists. It's never a good idea. If something goes wrong, then obviously it's going to end up in a bit of a state sometimes. So just be aware of that. You saw just then, by the way, that I teleported the lures away and disconnected them, which made the lure that my DPS has that I gave him at the shrine, the one holding the lures, the loot, sorry. And he's going to teleport that over to gate before exiting. But that's pretty much all you need to know, guys. I know there's a lot of information that I've crammed in there, and there's a few more tips and tricks that I would have liked to get out, but hopefully you guys have a good idea of what to do. We're just going to fly over and grab the loot now. But if you did enjoy the video, guys, let me know. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Hit like and subscribe, and yeah, I will see you in the next one. Thanks very much for watching, guys.